Hello and welcome to The Interview. I'm your host, Jennifer Clyde. Today we will meet an Israeli author, novelist, and intellectual who's been praised by the media and famous writers for his internationally acclaimed works. For years, he's also been nominated for the Nobel Prize in Literature. Today's guest is Amos Oz, and he is here in Korea visiting for a very special reason. Stay tuned as I take you to meet this great storyteller.
Amos Oz, one of the greatest writers of all time in Israel. Oz captures the delicate nature of his characters and gives insight into complex human relationships, which enabled him to build a literary world unique to himself. Since 1965, Amos Oz has led a very busy life as a writer, releasing 38 books to the public. As a result, he has received rave reviews and prizes in international literary circles. In October 2015, Amos Oz was selected to receive Korea's most prominent international literary honor, the Park Kyong-ni Prize, and visited the country for the first time in his life. This is the Park Kyong-ni House, located in Wonju, Gangwon-do province. This was the home of the late Korean female writer Park Kyong-ni for 18 years. Park Kyong-ni is known as the mother of Korea's modern literature. She is most well known for her novel, Toji, meaning the land in Korean, a saga set in the turbulent history of Korea during the 19th and 20th century. Amos Oz visited the Park Kyong-ni House for the occasion.
Very nice garden.
Yes.
Despite not meeting face-to-face, the two prominent writers of insightful novels, Human and History, have come together. Amos Oz enters the house where Park Kyong-ni once lived, which now holds her keepsakes.
토지가 처음에 책으로 나오게 했던 종이 지형을 또 보실 수가 있어요.
Yes, remarkable.
선생님의 집필실입니다.
Yes.
This is where the late Park Kyong-ni wrote her fourth and fifth volumes of Toji.
Yes.
So she worked here?
Yes, work here. She sat down that place.
Many thoughts probably passed through Amos Oz's mind as he walked through the place where Korea's literary history was made.
Left view is Mountain Chia.
You know, she lived very simple life. Everything about her was simple, nothing
Yes.
very fancy or pretentious. I'm impressed by the...
First of all, I would like to thank you so much for joining us on our show. It is such a great pleasure.
Thank you, it's my pleasure as well.
And congratulations on winning the Park Kyong-ni Award.
Thank you.
Yes, how did you feel when you first heard of the news that you were awarded that award?
Well, I was very, very excited because I know many of my books were translated into Korean, and to get such a marvelous recognition is a great honor. Also, I was elated by the opportunity to visit Korea for the first time in my life.
Oh, so very first time.
It is.
What was your impression of Korea before you came, and what is your impression of Korea now that you've spent some time here?
Well, my impression of Korea is based mostly on watching excellent Korean films and on reading some Korean literature in translation, not much. But of course, to be here is different than any previous impression. What strikes me most is the warmth of the people, everybody. Not just my hosts, they are wonderful. Not just my interviewers, they are wonderful. But also the simple people, everyone I met here, from the airport to this minute. And I'll tell you the truth, when I come to a country where I've never been before, for me, the most exciting experience is not the monuments or the museums, it's the people. I like to talk to people, I like to listen to people. I even like to sit in a cafe in the middle of the street and look at strangers coming and going, and the other guests of the coffee. This is what I love much better than the monuments.
Did you have the chance to do that in
A little
Korea?
bit, and I hope I'll have more of a chance in the next few days.
I see. Now you've had a chance to look around this house. We're in a garden, and there is a house behind us. Could you tell us about how it felt to tour inside?
What impresses me most is how simple, almost monastic, Park Kyong-ni lived. Very simple life. I made a point of looking into the kitchen.
The kitchen?
Because I love kitchens.
Is there a special reason why you love
Yes,
kitchen?
I think men belong in the kitchen. That's where men belong.
All men should be
That's my
listening very
conviction, yes.
carefully.
But to go back to the kitchen in this building, it's very simple, very modest. And I was very impressed by the simple life she lived
I see.
and created this monumental novel, Toji.
Wonju is hosting the 2015 Park Kyong-ni Prize. Many people have gathered at the Toji Foundation of Culture to congratulate Amos Oz for being this year's recipient. The Park Kyong-ni Prize is an international literary award started in 2011 to honor her legacy. The Toji Foundation of Culture selects one writer each year from around the world who is deemed to have contributed greatly to the development of world literature. A reception held to celebrate Amos Oz receiving the prize. In honor of the special occasion, the Israeli ambassador to Korea gave a congratulatory speech.
Developing the relations in the literary area is a new thing for us. Even though there are like 60 books that were translated from Hebrew into Korean, 12 of them are of Amos Oz, and this is a great honor, and for us it's kind of a bridge building between our two countries.
The main event began with a performance of kugak, Korean traditional music. It took 7 months of screening 71 candidates before the judges unanimously selected Amos Oz. The judges agreed that he was the writer who best expressed the complexities of human nature in Israel.
국가가 어느 방향으로 가느냐 이런 거에 대해서 고민하고 하는 사람들이 이스라엘 사람들인데 사람 마음도 의식하면서 쓴 작가가 이 오즈 작가다 이렇게들 생각을 했죠.
During his acceptance speech, Oz reiterated the role and obligation of a writer and thanked Korea for inviting him to the country.
Ultimately, I am very grateful to my wonderful Korean publishers, to my wonderful Korean translators, to my wonderful Korean readers for making my books travel all the way from Hebrew to Korean. Thank you very much.
Amos Oz is capable of drawing the attention of his readers by describing the most basic forces in human nature. His writing transcends regional interpretation and can be enjoyed by those living beyond the borders of Israel in all of modern-day society.
So here I have with me one of your novels, A Tale of Love and was it Darkness? It was recently published in Korea, or republished in Korea, in Korean actually, so it's been translated in Korean. I understand that it's been translated in many other languages, nearly 30 languages, is that correct? Did you get the chance to look through the book?
It's a beautiful edition and I like it. I even like to inhale every new edition of my books, because every book, like every person, has a different scent.
Ah, so what kind of scent does this book have?
It has a scent of freshness, and it makes me very curious. I should learn Korean so that I can read the translation.
It might take you a very long time to finish this book, but it's very interesting how you said that each book, especially when it's a new book, has a very fresh scent to it, but they all have its own very different scent. I heard that this book holds a very special meaning to you, and I was curious, what does this book mean to you?
This book is very much about my own life, my childhood, my parents, my grandparents, and even about the generations before whom I have never met. So this is family history, but it's combined with fiction. This is a novel that tries to erase the line between fiction and non-fiction. It also tries to erase the line between tragedy and comedy, because it's very sad and very funny, both.
Yes, I understand that although it is a very serious story, there are very serious stories in the book, it somehow does have some humor to it. Humor is hidden here and there. What does humor that's found in this book mean? Was there a special reason why you kind of tried to mix seriousness and humor?
When I was a young man, I used to think that tragedy and comedy are two different planets. This is what they taught us at school, all of us.
I see.
But now I know that comedy and tragedy are just two different windows through which you can see the same garden or the same backyard. So this book is written with a smile. My grandmother used to say, when you have cried all your tears and you have no more tears to cry, this is the time to laugh.
Oh, wow. So this story actually tells a lot about your personal life. Or rather, you expressed your personal life and your personal stories in the book. How much of it, or how many % of the book actually involves your personal experiences?
You know, there is no way of answering your question in percentage, because my fantasies are also part of my life. My dreams, my fears, my nightmares, even my sexual fantasies are part of my life story.
Sure.
So everything is real, but not everything actually happened.
The film A Tale of Love and Darkness is based on Amos Oz's autobiographical novel, first published in Hebrew in 2002. The film starred world-famous actress Natalie Portman, who also made her directorial feature debut through this movie, writing the screenplay as well. In May of this year, Natalie Portman was invited to the 68th Cannes Film Festival as a director of the film, and A Tale of Love and Darkness was selected for special screening.
Now, it was also made into a movie, and I understand it made its world premiere at the Cannes Film Festival at a very special screening section. Did you have the chance to go to the showing?
No, I decided not to go because I never feel very good among VIPs, red carpets, flashes of cameras. It is not my world. So I decided that the stage should belong to Natalie Portman and not to me in Cannes, and just I waved to her from the distance, from the other side of the Mediterranean.
So you just mentioned Natalie Portman.
Yes.
I was curious, how did she get involved in this film, or how did she come to star in this movie?
Natalie read the novel many years ago when it was first published in English. She apparently fell in love with the book, and she decided that she wanted to create a film to act the main role. She is my mother in the film. Yes. She's so young, she's younger than my little son, and she's my mother. And she also directed it. So it was a one-woman project, and I admire her courage and her creativity.
What, in your opinion, is the reason for all the international attention, especially in the literary world?
There is a certain magic about literature. The more provincial it is, the more universal it may become. People who try to write international novels about international hotels and airports, those novels are bought in international hotels and airports, they are read in the airports, and they are left on the bench in the airports. The good books, the one which I love, from every country, are the books about small villages, about small towns, about one neighborhood. This great author who lived right here in this house and wrote Toji, she knew the secret. The more provincial, the more universal.
So now I would like to maybe shift over to kibbutz. I understand that you've spent some time there, but now stories of kibbutz is told in your first book, Where the Jackals Howl, and in your initial bestseller, My Michael. Also, Between Friends, which is one you wrote after many years of actually leaving kibbutz. Is that right? Now, what meaning does kibbutz hold in your literary world?
I lived in a kibbutz for almost 30 years.
Very long time.
And I still find the kibbutz one of the most important experiences in my life. Kibbutz is a communal village based on socialism, but it's totally the opposite of communism because it doesn't belong to the government and because everyone can come and go at any time.
I see.
The gates are open.
You're free to come, you're free to leave.
It is an experiment in an extended family, sharing everything, working together. It's not a paradise. It has flaws and it has pains. But for me, it was an opportunity to learn so much about human nature because I came to know very intimately everybody on the kibbutz.
But I understand that you started to live in kibbutz at a very early age, 15, 16. This is during your teens. What was going through your mind at that time? There must have been a very big reason as to why you decided to live in kibbutz.
When I was 12, my mother died. She killed herself. I rebelled against my father's world for many reasons which are described in this novel.
Yes.
I decided to become everything my father was not and not to be anything he was. He was an intellectual. I decided I will become a tractor driver. He was right-wing conservative. I decided to become a socialist. He was a short man. I decided to become very tall. He did not succeed, but I tried. In the end, I find myself sitting in a room full of books and writing even more books, which is exactly what my father wanted for me to do. This only shows that many rebellions and revolutions tend to go full circle. My father died more than 40 years ago, but I still talk to him every day. We argue about politics, we argue about literature, we fight every day. He's dead, but it doesn't matter. He's still there.
Yes. It's always very heartwarming and also very painful sometimes to, talk about parents and hear stories about parents that have passed away. But what was it like living there?
Well, I worked in the fields, mostly in the cotton fields of the kibbutz.
I see.
I taught at school. I worked for many years as a waiter in the dining hall, in the cafeteria. And I had to be very quick as a waiter because if I weren't quick, people will say, aha, he was quoted in the New York Times, he's lazy now. I liked it because it gave me daily contact with people. And I wrote at night, after work. Later on, when my books became a source of income to the community, they gave me 1 day every week for my writing. Then 2 days every week. Finally, 3 days every week for my writing.
Wow.
And all the royalties, all the incomes, I just signed the back of the check and gave it to the community. I liked the arrangement because it gave me a chance to be in touch with many people.
So you wrote, and as you mentioned, you worked and you also taught in the very beginning. As time passed, you had more time to write, starting from 1 day a week to 2, 3, and then on and on. But what prompted you to write to begin with? How did it all start for you?
You know, it started when I was about 5-year-old. I couldn't write yet, but I would invent little stories inside my head.
What kind of stories?
And tell my friends. Thrillers, funny stories, fantasy. And you know why I did it? It was my only way to impress the girls. I was not good at sports. I was not good looking. I was not good in school. I was not good in anything. My only way to impress the girls was to invent stories and tell them. And maybe this is the reason why I still write, trying to impress the girls.
Are you trying to still impress women out there?
Well, I try. Sometimes I even succeed, but not always.
I'm sure you're doing a wonderful
you.
job still till this day. Now, after all of this, when exactly did you decide to leave Kibbutz? Was there a special reason as to why you decided to leave?
I left for a simple reason. My younger son, who was 7-year-old at that time, developed a very bad asthma. And the doctors decided that he needed mountain desert air for his recovery. So my wife and I and our little son, we moved to a small town in the Negev desert. And we lived in that town for almost 30 years in the middle of the desert.
What was it like living in the middle of the desert?
I love the desert. For many, many years, I used to begin my day at 4 o'clock in the morning before sunrise by taking a walk alone in the desert.
Wow.
Talk to the stars, talk to the wilderness, talk to the wind, listen to them, take everything in. And then I go back home, drink a cup of coffee. 5 o'clock in the morning, I'd sit by my desk and start working. And my work is simple. I sit by my desk and I ask myself, what if I were here? What if I were him? What if I was this woman or that man? What would I wish? What would I eat? What would I say? What would I be ashamed of and would not like anyone to know about me? This is my work, putting myself under the skins of my characters.
Wow. So it's all about imagining and thinking about other people as well.
Yes.
Putting yourself in their positions, in their shoes.
Imagine the other. This is called curiosity. Please tell me, what is the Korean word for curiosity?
Curiosity is 호기심.
호기심.
Very good, yes.
It's a very important word because I believe curiosity is also a moral virtue. I believe a curious person is a better person than a person who is not curious.
Yes.
A better parent, a better neighbor, a better partner. I even believe that a curious person is a better lover than a person who is not curious, but I cannot explain this on television, I'm sorry.
Yes, I think I read about that. You've mentioned it in an interview.
Yes.
So you actually gave curiosity a moral value.
Yes.
Wow, that's very interesting. So you believe that everybody should be curious?
Yes, I believe if people were more curious, they would become less fanatic. If they would become less fanatic, there will be less violence in the world. Fanatics are never curious. They know all the answers. They don't care about you. They just want to change you. That's what they want.
I see. And what do you feel about this saying, though? Curiosity killed the cat. Meaning it's not very good to be curious. That's
You know,
what some
I
people
have
say.
a cat for 15 years now. He is extremely curious and it never killed him. So the saying is wrong.
Okay, so you don't believe in that.
Oh, not at all.
But have you ever found yourself in a situation where you were so curious about something, but however found it very difficult to get over that curiosity or come up with an answer?
Of course it's very difficult. I never get to know everything I want to know about other human beings. And what I cannot know, because it's too private or too intimate, what I cannot know, I invent, I imagine. That's what fantasies are all about.
I see.
That which I cannot see, I fantasize. That which people do not tell me, I invent. This is my job.
Now, your writing style and, of course, your stories really touch people deep inside and leave a very strong impression in your readers' minds. Was there an incident, or what was it that helped you to develop your writing style? You're very different, your own writing style.
You know, my writing style is inspired by classical music.
Classical music.
I'm a great lover of music. And sometimes when I write a story or a novel, I think of a piece of chamber music. Sometimes I think of a fugue. Sometimes I think of a madrigal. And I try to reproduce in words the equivalent of a work of music.
Can I ask you a quick
Yes,
question? Do you
please.
hear the birds
All the time,
chirping?
yes.
Does that sound like music to you?
Yes, it does.
How would you interpret that music right now? How does it make you feel?
Peace.
Peace.
Yes.
The birds are chirping
The
very
birds-
loudly.
The birds, to me, are a representation of peace. So the first thing I hear every morning are the birds. And the last thing I hear in the evening are the birds.
The birds. I see. Now, I heard that you have two different pens on your desk. I read about this as
Yes.
well. I'm sure you've mentioned it
Yes.
several times. But could you tell me and our viewers what these pens mean to you and why you have two pens on your desk?
One is for politics, the other one is for telling stories. These are two totally different activities. I write about politics when I have the answer. I tell stories when I don't have the answer, when I hear different voices inside me, when I disagree with myself, when my mind is divided. That's when I write a story. When I agree with myself 100%, I write an angry article, sometimes telling my government to please go to hell. They read my articles and they don't go to hell, but I write it again and again. So these are two totally different activities. Politics, one pen is to try to persuade people to follow my ideas.
Yes.
The other pen is not trying to persuade people, it's trying to tell them stories. It's trying to satisfy their curiosity or provoke their curiosity.
I see.
Telling stories is to make people meet themselves.
Now, could you also, now that you're talking about your stories and you trying to persuade people, and the other, of course, use a different pen to express
Yes.
other thoughts, could you tell us about how you came to launch Peace Now? And could you tell us about Peace Now?
Well, correction, I'm not the only one who launched Peace Now. There were a group of people who were convinced that the clash between Israeli Jews and Palestinian Arabs must be resolved by a compromise. Because the Palestinians have a very powerful claim. And the Israelis also have a very powerful claim. Now, you know, this is the definition of a tragedy, a clash between right and right. Sometimes it becomes a clash between wrong and wrong, but still it is a clash between two peoples. Every one of them is somewhat right. So I believe in compromises, not only between Israelis and Palestinians. I believe in compromises between husband and wife, between lovers, between parents and children, between brothers and sisters. Now, compromise is not capitulation. It doesn't mean that you should turn the other cheek to your enemy. No. Compromise is try to meet the other somewhere halfway. This is the essence of Peace Now.
Peace Now is a non-governmental organization founded in Israel in 1978. It is a liberal advocacy and activist group with the aim of promoting a peaceful two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict continues without a clear solution on the horizon. Some 10,000 members from around the world are are working to achieve peace between Israel and Palestine and have received support from many, including renowned scholars, politicians, and philosophers.
Now, as you mentioned, the Israeli and Palestinian issue, it's affecting the whole world, I guess. It's not just about two ethnic groups or races. It's not just about two people or two groups. It's about everyone, all of us, and it's affecting the whole world. How do you think it should be resolved, or how do you think it could be resolved? What do you think that people should do?
It should be resolved, and it can be resolved by a compromise, by turning the house into two smaller apartments. One for the Palestinians, with some Jews residing in Palestine, one for the Israelis, with many Arabs residing in Israel. But essentially, the house has to become two different apartments because the Israelis and the Palestinians are two different families.
Right. So it's once again all about compromising.
It is about compromise.
Understanding, accepting, I guess, sometimes, and respecting each other.
Making concession, making concession. It's not about giving away everything. It's about making a concession on both sides.
Is there a story perhaps that you want to tell us about your Palestinian friends? Do you have many Palestinian friends?
Well, I have dearly beloved Palestinian friends. They are the pragmatic ones. I don't have contact with the fanatics because the fanatics would not even talk to me. But I have many relations and friendships with pragmatic Palestinians, and we have a secret, shared sense of humor. We can laugh at our own stupidity. I think sense of humor is a wonderful antidote to fanaticism. I never saw a person with a sense of humor becoming a fanatic. I never saw a fanatic with a sense of humor. So if I could compress sense of humor into capsules and make people swallow my humor capsules, thus immune them to fanaticism, I deserve the Nobel Prize in medicine, not in literature.
Is that maybe another reason as to why you have humor hidden here and there in your stories?
Humor is life. Humor is, it's part of the crucial nutrition for human life. I don't think anything in this world can work without humor, not even a marriage. Not even an interview. A good interview should have some humor in it.
You have humor.
And we both had it. Yes.
Now, back to Peace Now. What would you say is the greatest, the most meaningful or most important achievement you've made so far through Peace Now?
The majority of the people in Israel now, they know in their heart of hearts that there must be a state of Palestine next door to the state of Israel. They are not happy about it, but they know it. This is a big step forward, in my view. It's not enough, but it's a big step forward.
A tour of the demilitarized zone in Korea, a unique experience that can't be seen anywhere else in the world. Amos Oz took the tour to experience it for himself.
How far is Pyongyang from here?
From here, 50, 60 kilometers.
It's very close, very close.
He's a very famous writer in Israel.
By coincidence, Amos Oz met a group of tourists from Israel. They all recognized him at once, validating his reputation as the representative writer from Israel. The first stop of the tour took Amos Oz to Torasan Station, the northernmost railway station in Korea. Since the separation of the two Koreas, trains heading to the north have ceased, and the station is visited only by tourists.
Well, one day I hope you can drive from Seoul to Jerusalem.
To Jerusalem.
Directly, yes.
Exactly.
Absolutely. One day.
The next stop for Amos Oz was the Tora Observatory, which is the closest to the north. The observatory has several telescopes for tourists to take a look north of the border. Amos Oz also used the telescope to take a closer look into the north. As an advocate for peace, what could be going through Amos Oz's mind?
Borders are not forever. I don't know how long, but borders are not forever. There is no border in history which lasted forever. No one.
As the only country in the world that remains divided, the DMZ vividly captures the scars and wounds of its harsh reality. It must have left quite an impression on Amos Oz, who advocates peace and coexistence.
You have been continuously mentioning making peace between people, between nations, groups of people. What do you think of inter-Korean relations? How do you think that can be improved?
You know, to prescribe a medicine, you have to examine the patient very carefully. I have not examined the Korean tragedy thoroughly enough. So who am I to propose prescriptions? I know it's a tragedy, but I don't think I'm the right person to prescribe the medicine, the remedy for Korea. I think it's up to Korean people to think about it and to find the remedy.
Could you perhaps give us a peek into what you're working on now, your next book?
My latest novel is already published in many countries, but not yet in Korean.
I see.
It's called Judas.
Judas.
And it's about loyalty and betrayal, about love and loneliness and longing. And it's about the quest for intimacy between strangers. I hope this novel will one day travel into Korean.
I'm sure it will very soon. I will be looking forward to reading it. Now, how would you like to be remembered by your readers? Or how would you like to be remembered as just a normal individual, just Amos Oz, and also as a writer? Do you want to be remembered differently?
You know, if you're asking me to choose a short inscription for my tombstone, I would say, here lies a curious man who never had enough of people.
Now, could you also, is there a message that you want to send out to our viewers that are watching from across the globe?
Well, it will be a one-word message, shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom in Hebrew means peace, but it also means hello, and it also means goodbye, and it also means nice to see you. Shalom. So this will be my simple message to my friends in Korea and to everybody, to everyone in the world. Shalom.
Okay, I guess this brings us to an end to today's interview. We would like to thank you once again very much for your time, for your valuable time. And I hope that all of your goals and your hopes come true. I wish you the best of luck with your next book and your many books to come for many, many more years. And shalom.
Shalom, and thank you for a very good conversation.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Amos Oz, the giant of contemporary Israeli literature who we met on the interview. Curiosity, humor, and compromise. The words he delivered before departing the country, representing his life's work.